Well, we're here with the captain of the Royals in the 2019-20 season, Garrett Mitchell. Garrett, first of all, it's great to talk with you as always. We know you're staying safe out in Hummelstown, about an hour west here of Reading. How have the last few months been for you and your family?
Yeah, no, thanks for having me. I appreciate it. No, it's been really good. Maybe I shouldn't say really good, but it's been good. Everybody's feeling good, and it's for the first little while there was pretty tough on our girls, and just trying to keep them busy, and that's the hardest thing. You got 4 and 3. It's not the easiest thing to keep them inside, and thank God that we've got a play structure in the backyard and a trampoline for them to bounce around on and blow off some energy. But all in all, it's been pretty good.
I know things are starting to open back up. We were talking just before we went on about the pool, so that probably helps a little bit. But I know a lot of your life and your wife's life has to be, making sure the kids are doing mentally all right. But I mean, your season was cut short in the AHL with Rockford, obviously the Royals too. What were those first few weeks, even, still to this day? How have you taken that side of it professionally?
Yeah, and that was the thing, and it's no different than us in Reading. Everybody had no idea. I remember kind of when everything was called off, and we went into the rink to practice on the Friday, and the Thursday was when the NBA had canceled the season, and so there was talks of it in the dressing room beforehand, but we didn't find out until I'd say it was probably close to like 9:45, 10 o'clock practice. Coach just came in. Some guys are half dressed. There's guys already on the ice. They came in and said, "Hey, listen, we just got word from Chicago." Obviously, it trickled down from the NHL, but nobody's allowed on the ice. Everybody go home, and we'll let you guys know. And that's kind of all we knew. And so all right, everybody kind of got back dressed and went back. And I was staying at the hotel. They had like a residence in, so I actually had my family. So both Toledo and both girls were out there with me, and so we were there for I guess it would have almost been 6 days. Just not knowing. And at that point, restaurants were starting to close, and living in the hotel, we didn't have it. You had to go out and eat, and so at that point, it was starting to get pretty real. And I think with being so close to Chicago, with Chicago O'Hare shutting right down, I think that was one of the biggest kind of reality checks for like, whoa, this is pretty real to start with. And so yeah, I think that first month even of coming back here, not knowing if we're gonna get going again, not knowing too much. I think we all maybe as hockey players thought, oh, this will just kind of blow over and 2 weeks or whatever, and we'll get back and go back practicing. And that second month hits, and keeping a 4 and a 3-year-old busy inside the house is not the easiest thing. So I think it was good for us as a family. We were I got 3 more months with them than I would have normally. So taking the positives away from that, I think it was it was a good thing. I was able to spend a lot of time with the girls.
It's interesting because I remember when we were talking, I went back and I listened just to a few minutes of when you came on the Radio Recon show at the Railroad House. It was, I think, right before the holiday break, if I remember right, or right after. It was one of those two. And yeah. I remember you said that when you were or still to this day, with your connection with Hershey, obviously, and being the former captain there, that you will walk around giant supermarket stores and people would, come up and say hi. Now, I know the mask mandate here in Pennsylvania went in a little bit later than some other places, by a week or two, not much. But did that start happening to you even after all this stuff was swirling around, or would people kind of be keeping their, hats and head down at the supermarket and stores?
No, for sure. And it still happened. And it was funny because, I mean, still to this day, I struggle with it because, I'm pretty, I smile, I'm going to, hey, how's it going? But, when you just see this and, all you can see is eyes, it's pretty tough to, show any sort of emotion or anything, and, there's a couple of times where, you come around the corner of an aisle in the grocery store and, there's a little old lady and I'm kind of like, oh, I'm sorry. But, all you see is my eyes. And so, I think that was that's been kind of difficult, to show any emotion. Everybody kind of is just, on one pace and going back and
Yeah,
forth. So,
yeah,
it's definitely happened. I think, the hardest thing for me, to be totally honest with you, is, somebody comes up to me and, hey, how's it going? And I'm like, do I shake their hand? Do I give them a fist bump? Do I, we bump
elbow,
elbows? I think yeah, I've been in a couple awkward situations there where, you're kind of like that, what are we doing here? And,
yeah, yeah.
I think that's going to be the new normal. I know I've talked to a few different people that, have whether they've stuck their hand out to shake somebody's hand and they've got shut down, or, it's just one of those things. I think it's going to kind of be, the way it is now, and, not just greeting somebody with a handshake anymore, which was, I almost think you almost had to do it in a lot of situations, but that's been probably the hardest thing for me, around here at least.
Last thing about the current situation, then we'll get back, look a little bit at the season, which is, when we connected to, record this, first thing I thought of was, what if you were in Europe when this was all happening with your family? And I don't know if you've thought about that at all or reflected on that, but you were in Slovakia in 2018-19. Obviously,
Yeah.
you came back to North America this year. And have you thought about that all? And if so, what are your thoughts on maybe how it would have gone? Because I know the story of how you got to Slovakia settled was pretty wild in the first place with the family and everything.
Yeah, honestly, it did. We my wife and I talked, Taylor and I talked about it quite a bit. And, I still have a lot of friends that are over there, and, not just in Slovakia, but all over the place. And, the scary thing, I think, for a lot of people, is when that border was initially shut down, and, initially kind of everybody thought, okay, the border's closed, not knowing if even if you're a US citizen, if you could get in, or you couldn't get in. If that was my wife and I, we wouldn't have been able to get in, because we're not US citizens. Obviously now we're going through the process to get our green cards, but we wouldn't have been. And, like the girls could come in because they're US citizens, but we wouldn't have been able to. So I know there was a lot of, couples that, maybe met playing in North America and then have come back to Europe and they get split up. I've got a few buddies that happened to. And, I think the whole thing was obviously just not knowing, everything was just kind of day by day, and just go with it and see where it ends up. So, we definitely talked about that. And, obviously, thank God that it was only a 7 or 8 hour drive to Rockford, that, the girls just jumped in with me. They had a flight to come back to Hershey actually a few days later. And so they just jumped in with me and we drove back. So it was, makes it a lot easier, I guess, than trying to, jump on flights. I know buddies of mine were flying, and they were flying all over the world just to try and get back before that deadline. And, because at that point, nobody really knew.
Yeah, again, talking with Garrett Mitchell here, Royals captain this season, and to get away from that, focus a little bit more on how you got to Reading, which we've talked about, but also how you got to the AHL, which is, you were up in Laval, had the opportunity there for essentially a cup of coffee, but a few weeks, getting a few games, and then obviously settled in Rockford. And the news is that it's more than a month ago at this point, but you signed with Rockford for next season. So how did that experience with the Royals and with Laval help you for when you got to Rockford and you made a pretty significant impact right away?
Yeah, honestly, it's I've talked about it a little bit, just with people around here and stuff, but I was definitely okay with it, coming to Reading, and playing close to home, having my family, live at home, and I was okay with everything. And I came in, to the start of this season, and that was, my goal was to win the Kelly Cup, and I think we had a great team, and honestly, I think we had a team that could have done it, and I think that's the hardest thing for us to swallow is, man, you get Ralphie back, and you get guys back from Lehigh and stuff, and I think you make a serious push, if not win the whole thing. And so that was my mindset coming into Reading, and I think maybe I could have gone the other way. I could have come in and been like, I've played in the American League. I can come in and kind of go through the motions. And I remember my dad telling me right away when I kind of made this decision, like, go in and go play, because you never know. And I think it kind of proved itself that, hey, somebody saw, that I was doing something, and obviously I got a chance to go to Laval, and I got a chance to go up and play a little bit in Rockford, and was able to stick around there for a little while. So, that was pretty neat. I came with the mindset that, I was okay with staying in Reading, and I was okay if, to make a long run, and that was my goal. And I still think that, whether it was, make a playoff run in Rockford a little bit and lose out, or whatever that would be, I would have come back to Reading, and obviously we'll never know where that could have gone, but I was excited for the year, and it was it ended up working out for me.
I'm curious too, because I know when we were talking, we had that big Zoom chat with, we had 5 of the boys on, and a lot of the leaders on the team, obviously besides yourself, but like Frankie and Braden Lowe, they were saying that, he's texting us all the time in the group chat, he's not like he's going away. And there were, anyway, they were talking about the impact that you made even from afar, and always be willing to, listen to guys that you're checking on scores, seeing how guys are doing, still poking fun, chirping here or there. What was, it's not something that you had to do, but why did you still feel obligated to do that?
Yeah, and honestly, I think it comes back to, what I just touched on there. I think I'd come in, that my mindset was to come in and win in Reading. And, those are my boys. And still to this day, we keep in touch, and, we just, we get the group chat going, and it keeps going. It's not something that's one and done and, kind of see you later. So, I think we had one of those special teams. I've been fortunate enough, I guess, to play on a few of those teams and make some long runs in the playoffs. And, those are the teams, those are the guys you remember, the teams that you don't make the playoffs. You look back on your career, you might struggle to remember exactly who was on your team throughout the year, and it's not a great thing to say, but that's just what happens. And it's the reality of it. And when you have a team that's as close as we were there, I felt like, I've been through those situations. I know that, what it takes. And there's little things, maybe it's off the ice, little things that happen in the game or whatever. And, I've been through that, and maybe not personally, but I've seen somebody go through it, playing here or in their career. So I think, just the ability for those guys to reach out and, hey, Mitchie, what should I do here? How should I react to this? I was just obviously always willing to help, but that was my mindset. Like I said, those are my boys.
Mark French, guy that he just became the head coach of the Wheeling Nailers yesterday. Sort of news of the last 24 hours. He played for him for a number of years, and Wheeling is a pretty big rival of the Royals. But for a Royals fan watching it, what should they expect from learning about Coach French over the next few seasons?
Yeah, honestly, I think I don't think he's going to be there that long, and I mean that in the best possible way for him. He's a great coach. I think I played for him for quite a while here in Hershey, and then Troy Mann, which was his assistant when I was playing for Frenchie, took over, and I think Troy was able to keep not a lot, but similar philosophy on how Frenchie coached. And obviously I was with Troy Mann for 5 years or whatever it was, and maybe more, I'm not even sure. It's just one of those things. But Frenchie was one of the most detailed coaches. That's gonna be a very well structured team, and I think it's a fun team to watch. You look at Frenchie's record in the American Hockey League. I think I read today, maybe he's in the top 3 of fastest, to the highest winning percentage or something like that. So of 300 games, and that one year in Hershey, I think they won like 65 games that year, something like that. And they did hold the longest winning streak until Norfolk broke it that year that Norfolk won. But yeah, he's a great coach, and like I said, I don't think in the best way possible, I don't think French is going to be around for too long, because I think somebody will see the opportunity to jump on and bring him aboard.
Couple more. Favorite ECHL game this season with the Royals, and then your favorite American Hockey League game.
Oh man.
I have a few hints. I'm not trying to lead you down the river, but I'll give you a word. If you can't remember any, then I'll throw a few in.
No, it's funny. I listened to, obviously, to the Zoom interviews that you've done here, and I don't know if I've ever seen somebody remember a game as well as Frankie DeChara. Like, I'm like, Frankie, he's like, yeah, game 13. Yeah, I was like 5-4 with 6 minutes left, and I came down the wall and I gave it over to someone. I'm like, man, I can't even remember that for dinner last night. And this guy's got game 13 nailed down. But
if he wasn't the leading scorer, I have to have him in the booth for this to just remember everything. He's got to come on the air.
I couldn't believe it. I was like, Frankie, man, this is insane. But I think maybe my favorite game. I think I had the game-winning goal there with a few minutes or maybe a minute left or something like that. I went short side, and it was kind of a longer review.
Teddy bear toss game with the Flyers and Gritty.
It was Teddy bear toss, yeah.
Yeah. December.
See, I can't even remember that. But, yeah, I remember going short side bonk on
water bottle just flew, right?
Water bottle. Yeah, the water bottle popper.
Yeah.
So, no, it was good. I'd say maybe that one, and man, my favorite American League game. Oh man. I remember my first goal in Springfield, which is a pretty cool one. I think maybe another pretty neat one. Obviously it didn't go as well as we would have liked it, but playing the Calder Cup finals, we got swept, but 3 of the 4 games were 1-goal games, so they're close pretty much the whole way through. And, I remember just being in that sold out Cleveland, which, I mean, Cleveland holds like 18 or 19,000, which was pretty cool. So, just maybe going through those, I don't know if I've got a great memory on all of it, but playing 400 games here in Hershey was pretty cool too.
For sure. And just to finish up, I know we were chatting. One of the things you wanted to do was to make sure you said, a couple thank yous out there, and kind of wrap it up, because next season, as it looks, obviously you signed in Rockford. So we'll let you have the floor here and have fun.
Yeah, no, I just, like I said, I wanted to obviously touch base with everybody, and I love my time in Reading, and it was great. And it's not to say that it's done by any means. There's I still feel like I got a lot of years left in me, and with me living local, it's just down the road. So, but with that being said, I hope that I was able to come in and help out and kind of show guys the ropes. And like I talked about before, it's one of those things. There's a lot of ins and outs in the game, within the game of hockey, and that could be on the ice or off the ice. And I was just, hopefully I was able to help the guys out and put a little bit of wisdom or I don't know, it might be, I'm not sure, but just a little bit of something, for guys to think about, or I've told all of the guys that, hey, if you ever need anything, reach out to me. And if I can't do it, maybe I know somebody that can. So, and then obviously to you guys, David Farrar for allowing me to come in, and K-Mac, Luke's, yourself, it was awesome. I said to my wife, obviously after this was all over, but, for me, it was one of the best years I had. I think, I got to the point in my career that I was, like I said before, I was, maybe okay with it being done, and I had obviously had my chance at playing, and, I was out having fun, and I think it was a good thing for me, because I think it kind of sparked me, back to give me a chance. Like, hey, I still have some life. I believed I had life in me, but, sometimes those opportunities aren't just given to you. And, so I just, like I said, I just wanted to say thank you. And, to the fans, it was awesome. Having people drive down, from Reading to come watch me play here in Hershey before, and, people coming up to me and saying, you're my favorite Bear. And, that's pretty cool. They're driving an hour, spending their own time to, to come out and watch you play. And I think it was a pretty special thing, and vice versa from people coming from here. So it was a pretty cool experience for me this year.
That's a class act approach, Mitchie. Thanks again for hopping on
No
with us.
problem.
This has been fun.
No problem at all. Appreciate it. Thanks for having me.